to Teenager Tuesday. This is Tisha Solomon, the student pastor at the Frisco East Campus. Thank you so much for joining us back. This is session 3 of our dating series that we're doing. If you are on YouTube, just remember that in the dating series that we're in right now, it's audio only, so you will not get to see our beautiful, bright faces, but you will get some great content throughout this series. I'm back again with JD Tomlin, just so thankful that he has decided to join us for this podcast when we're talking about dating. And this podcast specifically, session 3, we're talking about thinking about the future, like keeping the future in mind when we're talking to kids, our students, about dating and relationships. And so with that in mind, JD, when you are talking to your kids and we're talking to your kids and are still talking about to your kids who aren't married about just what they're looking for in a spouse, maybe some key qualities that, you know, we think might be great for any person and just any relationship, and just thinking about the future. How did you start talking to them about being future-minded, especially with our teenagers, right? They are oftentimes a drive-through, give me now, you know, type of generation. And I think we all probably were that way when we were teenagers. But at some point, we realized that we have to build now on what we want to see for the future. And we have to plan now for what we want to see for the future. And so when you were talking to them about spouses and about relationships, I'd love to know about how you kind of navigated that, how you handled that as their dad.
Tisha, thanks for asking. You know, I shaved today expecting us to be on video. I'm so disappointed, but I would love to say that I've done everything perfectly as a parent.
Yeah. I think we'd all love to say that.
Yeah. If you're listening and you have, please call me and just let me be you.
We all need to know your secrets.
Absolutely. So we have not had a intentional conversation with our kids when they were 12 years old about writing all the qualities down that they wanted in a spouse. Now, some cultures,
some people do that.
Maybe do that.
Yeah.
We don't do arranged marriages in our family.
Yeah,
sometimes that seems appealing, but it hasn't worked yet in the Tomlin household. So, but when I was in my early 20s and I was thinking about what do I want in a future relationship, which has now helped me certainly navigate these conversations with our kids.
Yeah.
Is, okay, I'm going to write down the things that I really hope to have in a spouse. And I'm also going to write down everything that I should be as a spouse.
Ooh, that's
And it was very interesting that my long list of wants definitely outweighed who I thought I should be and was as a spouse.
Interesting.
And so then I determined it's time for me to start working on me.
Oh, that's good.
So when I helped our kids determine, okay, someday when you're preparing for marriage, you have to start working on you.
Yourself.
You've got to be the person that you would like for the other person to be for you.
Yeah.
Whether it's our 3 daughters or our son. And those conversations start well before even dating.
Yeah.
It just talks about being the unique you that who you were created to be.
Absolutely.
And I know when I'm speaking, some of you here today have different perspectives, come from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
The Tomlins come from a perspective that we believe and want our children to be healthy individuals that have marriages that succeed, and when I say succeed, I can't prevent any of our kids from ever walking down a potential divorce or
as much as we'd like to,
my gosh,
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's the deal.
Human beings are still human beings.
We're just here for them.
Yeah.
We were there for them when they were born.
So good.
As they've grown up, now as adults, the relationship shifts.
Yeah.
But the conversations are still meaningful and deep, and we have the luxury. I know very few families do with young adults now, but we have the luxury that 3 of the 4 are living in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex where we live.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And our 4th is still in college. She has not been threatened to move back to the DFW area, but selfishly we hope that she will be.
You hope she ends up back here, yeah.
And so we get to see them regularly.
Yeah,
and I look at a lot of families that don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
And perhaps they don't even want that luxury, and that's okay. We just happen to get to see and be with our kids often. And so as we have helped our 2 daughters that are married navigate that relationship and that conversation about future spouses, we're helping our youngest 2 as well. And when I say helping, we just have open dialogue in our family. If you haven't already heard that on this podcast, we're the family that really anything can be discussed at any given time.
That's so good.
And at the dinner table, when almost everyone was there, including our sons-in-law recently, I brought up this topic.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
for an hour and a half, we unpacked it.
Yeah.
And one of my sons-in-law texted me later, and without sharing the details, he said, "Wow, man, thanks for that honest, transparent, somewhat uncomfortable conversation."
Yeah.
And it was and is the DNA of our family.
Yeah.
And so back to your question of what do they look for in a spouse, in a relationship. Hey, before you even make your list, make the list for yourself and who you need to be so that you can be what you want the other person to be.
At Hope, we have this saying, and it's draw a circle around yourself and begin to work on what's inside that circle.
Absolutely.
And we're the only ones who are in that circle. We're the only ones who can begin to work on who's inside that circle, and that's us. And so many times we're so busy looking outward, looking for someone else, doing all that when we have stuff that we've got to work on ourselves. And so I love that advice where when we're talking to our kids about spouses and relationships, because the reality is there's so many different people that have different qualities and different great things about them. It's hard to really narrow down. But if you're in a healthy place and you're just praying that your kids' spouse, your student's spouse are in a healthy place, man, it doesn't matter like the qualities or the background or any of that. Those are not the things you're really looking at anyways. You're looking to yourself and saying like, man, is this a person that I could see myself being with, based on their health and who they are and, what they've had to work through to get to where they are now.
Absolutely. When I think of a lot of my friends, we've had the privilege of living in this area for quite some time. We've raised our kids here and we have a lot of friends from a lot of different circles. And when I post this question about dating and helping your kids navigate this time of their life, recently in a Facebook post, one of my friends very honestly and transparently said that after a year of being divorced, I don't even know where to start, and I'm certainly not a good source of this topic. Mm-hmm. And that may be true for some of you.
Absolutely.
And that's said with grace, by the way, and complete respect for your acknowledgement of where you are in life. And that's where having mentors available for your kids, Hope Fellowship being one great place for that, where adults that can love and help and come alongside you as a parent to help your kids navigate this time.
Yeah.
Because I know that not everyone listening today has the luxury of being in a really healthy place, perhaps in your marriage or in your own life, where you're much less able to be healthy for your kids. And so just be cognizant and aware that there are people that really can and want to come alongside you and help you navigate these conversations. Tisha, you're a great example in the many adults that love serving students at Hope Fellowship Church.
Yeah. Well, and I love too what you were just saying about modeling. Listen, if we want our kids to be healthy, then we have to make sure that we're finding our place of health too.
Absolutely.
And that we're working on our stuff. And when they see us working on who we are and becoming the best version of who God created us to be, it encourages them, I think, and challenges them and lets them know that that's an important thing in this life.
Yes.
Is that we are working on who we are, that we are working on, being healthier, whether if that's going to counseling. We have regeneration here. We have something student regeneration for students. We have small groups that students can be involved in where we have vetted volunteers who will literally come along, just like you said, JD, love your students and help them as they walk through figuring out their own stuff. That is for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
So, this is so good. And just even thinking about the future, future relationships, future spouses. I think one other thing that we can do is just pray for our kids, because dating, relationships, all of that can be so difficult.
Absolutely.
And so if we are praying for our kids intentionally about just who they are, who God created them to be, praying for their future spouse. I remember my parents praying over my future spouse. I have 3 teenagers myself. I'm praying for their futures, and what that is, if they choose to marry and whoever they choose to marry, and that they would be in a healthy spot, that everybody involved, would be in a healthy place. So.
Well, and I know that this is not comfortable for every parent, but not only did we pray for it, because we prayed with our kids.
Oh, for sure.
And if I could recommend one book, if your kids are older and maybe even starting to prepare for that next stage of a relationship that leads to marriage, Ready to Wed. I read it recently. The author is Dr. Greg and Erin Smalley, Smalley, Ready to Wed. And I took our most recent second daughter and new son-in-law through this book, kind of a mentorship.
Yeah.
And guys, I'm so in love with the concepts from that book that I would highly recommend that you get that for yourself.
Yeah.
For your own marriage, and for your kids as they navigate this topic someday as well.
I love it, JD. Awesome. Thanks so much for being with us. Our next podcast, we have one more session 4. And like JD mentioned, when he was preparing for this podcast, he kind of got all of his kids together at dinner and said, hey, let's talk about dating a little bit. And I can't wait to hear about some of the stuff that they had to say during our next session.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be so fun. Parents, remember, you can do this. You are not alone. God is with you, and so are we. We'll see you next time.